Greetings and welcome to another LGR unboxing of a new-ish old console from 20-some years ago. Yeah, this time it is the Nintendo GameCube, which launched on September 14th, 2001 in Japan, November 18th of that year in North America, and then Europe and other territories the following year. At a launch price of $199 US, $100 less than Xbox and PS2 were back then. And initially only in indigo purple and jet black colors for the console, at least here in the US. In Japan there was also the spice orange one a little bit later on, and then several special edition colors and things over the years. But what I have here is the GameCube limited edition platinum model, which was released in 2002. And yeah, I know the box is a little messed up. Yeah, if it really bothers you, here, let's look at this one instead. This is just an empty box. The other one has not been opened, but it's not in the best shape. Anyway, it is, like I said, one of those quote-unquote limited edition models, but it was only that way for so long. Nintendo were mass-producing the silver ones after a while, and then they changed, the box to not say limited edition anymore. It's just a normal GameCube. Either way, I never had one of these back then. In fact, hardly anyone I knew had a GameCube back in 2001, 2002. Other than some friends of my younger brother who are around 10 years old. So I didn't really get much experience with it back then or even in the years since. It's just kind of one of those blind spots in my console history, despite loving the NES and the Super Nintendo and the N64 even growing up in the 90s. But the GameCube was just sort of like, whatever. At the time anyway, I had this view of it being a silly little thing, like it was just more of a toy than a quote-unquote real console. But I was also a teenager, I wanted the Xbox or the PS2 or even a Dreamcast over the GameCube. I don't know, it had this stigma around it, deservedly or not. Just in the general culture, at least the culture that I was aware of and watching, segments on G4 and Tech TV and the early 2000s internet. Plus there was that South Park episode in season 5, Towelie, the GameSphere thing. It was just increasingly silly seeming as time went on, but whatever. I was 15. Anything with that air of family friendliness about it, I was like, oh, that's instantly dumb. I don't want that. And plus they just had a lack of support from certain third parties. Not many of the quote-unquote mature big action or FPS games. There was no Black or Max Payne or Halo that you had on other consoles. And of course, no Grand Theft Auto, when at the time GTA 3 and Vice City were just the next newest thing that you had to have. Although if the Panasonic Q had been released over here in the States, it might have gotten more attention from me. I don't know, because DVD is just so important. It was a selling point for sure. Plus that thing just looks awesome and more grown up, so to speak, than a GameCube. Yeah, what it comes down to is I just didn't get much of a chance to give the GameCube a chance back then. And really most of my memories of playing the GameCube come from playing it at those retail demo kiosks that you'd see in stores, like the GameCube kid photo breaking his neck. By the way, that photo is of Luke. My brother is the GameCube kid. Yeah, I took that photo on November 29th, 2001, along with several other pictures of retailed things, just because they had a digital camera back then that was all like, oh, it was the first time I'd ever had one of those, so I just took pictures of everything. But yeah, if you've ever seen that photo floating around on various places on the internet, it went kind of viral, then yeah, that's my brother there. Just thought I'd put that out there because that seems to need some explanation. Anyway, the GameCube certainly had its selection of people that were buying it. They actually sold 21.74 million GameCube consoles worldwide, though that was actually a bit of a downer for Nintendo, since the 64 that sold 32.9 million. But that being said, Nintendo continued producing GameCubes until 2007. That was after the Wii was already out. And in those last few years, especially, the deals for GameCubes were superb. They dropped the whole console's price down to $99 in 2004, and it was often bundled with games from then onwards. So yeah, a console with bundled games for $100 is pretty darn good. And it seems to have really gotten a second chance with folks. especially those like 5 to 10 years younger than me. Particularly those who were in college around like 2008 to 2015 or so, because it was so darn cheap and the games were pretty excellent for slightly inebriated college parties. You know, the party-friendly multiplayer games on the GameCube were particular standouts. But unfortunately, that era of it being a very cheap, affordable, fun little console that you can just go out to a thrift store and buy with a bunch of games for like 25 bucks, yeah, those days are long gone. Particularly with the games themselves, they are not cheap anymore. No, sir. And due to it selling in lower numbers, I just never saw the GameCube stuff out in thrift stores as much as I did other consoles. Like at one point I did find a jet black model that I got in a thrift store in 2008. I think it was like 15 bucks. And I used it a little bit, but I really never found too many games for it. Never actively collected for it. I just resold all that stuff at some point. Although it did come with a broadband adapter, which is something I'd never put to use because there's like no online games. I mean, there's a few. There's some stuff that you can play over LAN or whatever, but yeah, other than like Phantasy Star, what were you playing online with this? There was no GameCube online like Xbox Live or anything. All that being said though, yeah, let's just finally get this thing unboxed, hook it up, test it out, hopefully it's working, and play some games and whatnot. Yeah. Okay. Well, a tidy assortment of just the power adapter on its own here. There we go. Somehow I don't remember it being like this. I don't know, it's been a long time since I've had a GameCube out. Yeah, it's got that sort of connector going on right there. 48 watts, 3.25 amp. Other cables are in here somewhere. Aha. Have our composite video here. And yeah, I don't actually have a component video cable set, so yeah, this will do. Oh, I guess that's the controller. Let's just get all this out of here. Ooh. Yeah, let's get to this controller. Well, there we go. Isn't that nice? That feels so fresh. The one that I had was extremely worn down, like somebody was chewing on this at some point and everything was all squishy and weird, and you know, it was a thrift find. This is about as fresh as it gets. I mean, man, it still smells very new. Oh, that is a nice, pleasant smell. Get that little connector there. It's still a relatively comfortable controller. The D-pad is so small. Those don't press in, but I guess I don't really need to. And the triggers, I think they're just digital buttons, right? Do they actually have any analog nature to them at all? I don't know. I don't remember. But, you know, it's definitely, definitely, but arguably an improvement over the Nintendo 64 controller. I remember being more sold on this than that back in the day, but honestly, I've come to appreciate the 64 more over the years. There we got our thing of paperwork here, so let's see. Subscribe to Nintendo Power. Oh, maybe would if I could. GameCube t-shirt, Radical headphones, a timely watch with some warped looking digits. If you had any of those, let me know. I'm curious if the watch actually looked like that. Just a registration card for Nintendo of America, a chance to win a game. Legally mandated precautions booklet. All of the stated things that just might kill you. GameCube was quite a deadly device, it seems. And of course, the instruction booklet, which, yeah, almost 30 pages. Yeah, pretty standard selection of instructional things here. Some nice visuals showing you what's going on. Oh yeah, all the different ports on the bottom. I think that one was for broadband and like the Game Boy adapter thing going there. That one, I don't know. Serial port 2, that's a little guy, but component video cable. Oh, how I wish. Those are expensive things. Although I think there's some third-party options. I used to have a third-party component cable for the GameCube, but it was one of those. It was also like a cable for the PS2 and also the Xbox. And it was just sort of an all-in-one thing where none of them really worked well, so I got rid of it. It was kind of cheap. All right, enough of that. Let's get to this console. Ooh. Oh, that immediately smells very, very fresh. That fresh old electronics smell. That is looking quite lovely. Normally see these so very scuffed up and worn, you know, all plugging it in. There's like marks all over that and here and there and everywhere, just due to the finish of these being, you know, I mean, they hold up decently, but yeah, all this being all normally scratched up and stuff. Although I am seeing a couple of little spots there, maybe just where it was rubbing around inside the box for all these years. Yeah, that's looking exceptionally fresh. Like not a speck of dust in there at all. So if this ever was used, I can imagine it would be just power on and that's it. What a pleasant little design. Controversial from what I recall, the whole lunchbox aesthetic and the handle being like, what the heck, why? Why do you need this? Why is it like that? It just is. And I always found this kind of intriguing too, back in the day, just seeing that graphics by ATI sticker on there and being like, what is that about? Well, the Flipper graphics chip in there is actually by ATI, or at least it was by the time everything was finalized. It's really by ArtX and Dr. Wei Yin, who was key in creating the N64 graphics chip as well for SGI. And yeah, the ArtX company was made up by ex-SGI developers and engineers, who was then purchased by ATI in 2000. They'd been working on this GameCube chip for 2 or 3 years by that point, so ATI just slapped their logo on the Flipper ASIC inside the GameCube, along with NEC, since they used their embedded RAM and their manufacturing process and facilities for production. So yeah, they were both involved, as was IBM, which is interesting. This uses a PowerPC based CPU codenamed Gecko. So yeah, just an intriguing selection of companies working with Nintendo on this. On that note, the optical drive. Ooh, yay, there were optical discs on a Nintendo console, finally. Of course, it's implemented in the most Nintendo way that they could think of, or I guess really the Panasonic way, or Matsushita being the company that they collaborated with to make this thing. And it actually does use little 1.46 gigabyte mini DVDs, very much like the 8 centimeter mini DVDs that you saw back then for camcorders and stuff. But not exactly the same because, of course, there's some proprietary things going on, the way they're written and encoded and all that. But yeah, in terms of these, the sizing and the basic format, more or less the same, and it will go in there and fit just fine. It's the same size as GameCube discs. And these blanks actually are compatible with a GameCube if you mod it. So yeah, you could burn games on here or whatever, I guess, but obviously more appealing and easier, or I don't know about easier, but different options with SD cards and things nowadays. Despite the whole mini DVD thing, it won't actually play mini DVD movies, which were indeed a thing. They'll fit inside there, but it's not actually going to do anything with it in terms of playing the movie because this didn't have DVD playback. Not that there were a whole bunch of these mini DVD movies released back in the day, but there were some. Instead, you just got the standard little guys right here, the GameCube discs, which again, exactly the same size. I don't know, I always found that choice interesting. Also interesting is the fact that it didn't need to have disc cases this large, and they didn't everywhere. And in Japan, you had these little miniature cases, which I think are quite appropriate and rather cute. Just, you know, it's about the same length as a GameCube. Instead, we got the standard DVD style cases, but also, again, Nintendo proprietary stuff going on in terms of a little place for your memory card and this whole design and like this opening here in the bottom. I don't know, it's just, Nintendo's got a Nintendo, I guess. All right, well, anyway, let's get this sucker all plugged in, or let's get our TV first, and then plug it in, get it all going, and experience some games. And you know what? I almost forgot the memory card. Yeah, that is not included with the GameCube, at least not this model. There may have been some bundled with them. And yeah, this is a bit of a later one, but I think it's appropriate for the 2002 era, the 251. There were lower capacity ones before this and higher later, but you know, either way, it's a must-have. Yeah. Actually, I also don't think they released them in the platinum silver. This'll do. There we go. Got our little floppy disk labels. I mean, they kind of look like mini floppy labels, but yeah, memory card labels. All right, let's get this sucker turned on. Oh man, I'll adjust this a little better here in a sec, but for now, the moment of truth. Bonk. All right, make sure run the right input here. Should be that. All right, turn up volume up and hear that again. I guess I'll get the calendar and other options set. A pleasant intro animation indeed. I'm on record saying it's not my absolute favorite. You know, hard to compare with the PS1 and the Dreamcast, but that's still a very good one. Plus this menu music, honestly, this is really, really good. It's just pleasant to look at and interact with, and the whole experience is... It's like the sum of its parts are a little bit greater than you'd think. Anyway, what am I looking for? Calendar, yeah, let's set the 2018. Does it just count up from a certain, like, the initial power on date? If that's the case... Oh, it goes up to 2099. Yeah, if that's the case, has it been, like, counting up for a certain amount of time? Like, because my assumption was, since I saw just the tiniest little bit of wear on there, maybe it had actually been tested. It was sold to me as unused, at least. Not new exactly, but new-ish, about as close to it as possible. I don't know. It's hard to tell with these things. Everything is cubes. Just tiny little game cubes all over the screen. All right, well, I think that's pretty much all I gotta do in here. Yeah. Let's get some games. As I mentioned earlier, I've never really actively collected for this system, and, well, games have only gotten more expensive over the years, and so there's a whole bunch of necessities, I guess you could say, that I'm straight up missing. And a couple of these I picked up just for this video and paid more than I wanted. But yeah, being a Nintendo console, it really is so much about the first-party games, which we're going to take a look at some of those, but I really want to start with this right here, a launch title, and also the game that I believe that Luke was playing in that GameCube Kid photo that I took back in the day, because this is one of those things you saw in the demo kiosks, or, you know, the demo version of this, Rogue Leader Rogue Squadron 2. Yeah. All right. Do not even know the last time I played this. It was probably on that demo kiosk, honestly. Forgot about Factor 5, man. Got FMV going on. Copyrighted music.
We stopped to destroy those deflection towers.
Red Leader, we've got you covered. I'm going after the towers. Cover me.
All right, so... Okay, all right, let's figure this out here. Torpedoes. Ooh, a nice immersive view there. Whoa. Oh, pretty cool. You know. This is actually still looks pretty good, man. I mean, seriously, 22 years old or whatever? Oh, there's our little thing. We don't need that. We can use the Force. Actually, we might need that, because I don't know where we're going. Yeah. Did we win? Nope. What the heck? Oh, no torpedoes left to fire at things. Yeah, you know, we don't need torpedoes. We had the Force. We would have been fine. Okay, that is still awesome, honestly. I want to play more of that, but we got to move on. And what we're moving on to is Super Mario Sunshine, a GameCube staple that I certainly did not give much of a chance back in the day. I think I probably played it for like 15 minutes and I was like, nope, this is not for me. But you know what? I've come to appreciate the 3D Mario games much more in recent years. Heck yeah, going on vacation. Ah, no, somebody pooped on the runway.
What happened?
I think Mario's stoned with love. I got a bad feeling about this. Yeah, me too, princess. Let's figure out these controls. Okay. Yep, that's making it worse. Let's not do that.
Preparing to register customer information. Scanning and classifying the subject data.
Scanning Mario's dick.
Subject identified as Mario.
Yep, that's definitely Mario. I'd know that anywhere. Oop, oop, oop. You know, I'm immediately remembering why I stopped playing this game so quickly back in the day. And that's because I thought this just felt like an immediate chore right off the bat. But no, I'm going to give this one more of a chance this time.
I judge the defendant guilty as charged. I hereby order the defendant to clean this entire island.
All right, so the whole plot of this is you've been wrongfully sentenced to community service on an island you're not even a citizen of, so... Okay. So there is a bit of an analog nature, or at least multi-pressing of the trigger. You press it just a little bit and it does things, and then there's like the full press. Huh. Okay. Well, I'll be darned. Okay. I find myself fighting with a lot of what's going on here, like the controls and the camera and whatnot. You know. This is still kind of cool. I'm not going to say it's bad or anything. I need to spend more time with it. And that's not what this video's for. So, moving on with another classic of the GameCube era and beyond. Mario Kart Double Dash, which I don't think I have ever played. I guess it's just me. Go some Donkey Kong. Mushroom, flower, or star? I'm gonna go for the mushroom because I don't know what any of this is. That was pretty instantaneous loading. All right. What are the controls? I don't know. It's not the triggers. Okay, it's that. Oh yeah, that's right. Triggers are probably drifters. Yeah. Mario Kart stuff. Well, isn't this just a basket of silliness? Oh, geez. What? Oh my. You know what? That's a Mario Kart ending if I've ever seen one. Wow. Alright. That's pretty good. I quite like this. Obviously be way better, less sober, and with more friends. Or any at all. Moving right on to a fighting game or something like that. And I don't have Smash Brothers. I looked at those prices online and I'm like, just nah. So I picked this up because I remember this being interesting. Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee. Don't actually recall much about it except, hey, it gave me King of the Monsters vibes back in the day. And that's a good thing. I will if I get... Oh, crap. Godzilla 90s, Megalon, Angora... Ha! North Seattle, South Seattle, Tokyo 2, San Francisco, LA, London, Osaka. I mean, Tokyo seems like ideal, but... LA? Who doesn't want to blow up LA with monsters?
Godzilla 90s.
90s. All right, Megalon. Time to die. No. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Loving the destruction happening, but okay, let's figure out how to play. There's UFOs floating around. I got you now. What are you gonna do about it? Nothing. Kick you in the face. UFOs are coming in clutch. This is the silliest crap I've seen. Yeah, oh yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, right off the ring edge. Nope. Oh, I was trying to do the tail thing and I hit the wrong button. Well, you know, whatever. One of us had to go down. Okay. That's, I mean, it's pretty entertaining. I can see why I thought it was pretty amusing back then. Definitely no Smash Bros, I'll say that much. Let's move on to another one that I've actually never tried, and that is the original Animal Crossing, or sort of original, for the GameCube. Because, yeah, this was a Nintendo 64 conversion. Actually, there's a memory card in there. I don't know if I need that, but yeah, N64 game came out in Japan like very late, and then this came out to the GameCube ported like a year after or something like that. Agreed, KK. Sure is. It works though. What the heck? Why do I look like that? Why do I look like that? What is wrong with me? Oh no, Tom Nook. Here to sign me up for some debt scheme. Oh gosh. So I have played Animal Crossing on the Switch, but that's the only one. I'm really curious to see what this original was like. Here it is. Here's the debt. Yeah, take all of my worldly possessions, you furry loan shark. Alright, well, we've got a dump over here. An intriguingly segmented overworld map. Can we, yep. That we can. Ah. Wow. This is, so far is feeling oddly familiar, considering it's 22 years old or something. Post office, Blue Bear? I live there. Hambo's there, no dump over there. There's the shop. Okay, we'll probably need to... Yeah. Yeah, I do need to change those clothes. They look terrible. No, it's not much better. Well, why do I got horns? I don't want the horns. I got a sapling. Let's plant that right there. All right, well, you know, it's Animal Crossing. I do want to continue this. Yeah, it's going to be more of a time investment than I have for this video. I wanted to get a shovel, but I guess it's going to be a little bit before I can get that. So, heck yeah, though. It's such a cool game. And last, but certainly not least, Metroid Prime. I never actually played this. Always wanted to, though. I remember seeing like gameplay footage of it on, I don't know, G4 probably, and being like, hey, that actually looks pretty cool. So GameCube might not have had all the FPS games and action games that I was most interested in on the PC and other consoles, but certainly had this, so I am intrigued. It's Metroid. All right, Samus, let's go do some stuff. Ooh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I remember that now. Having aiming be like a toggle. I remember maybe playing a demo, or maybe they had the game running on like a kiosk or something like shortly after it came out. I remember playing around with this ball mode. I think it just looks so cool with the trails going behind it. Kind of a Tron effect with the light cycles. Auto centering of the aiming is taking a little bit of getting used to, but overall, not bad so far. It's feeling relatively intuitive, actually. This is interesting. Not what I was expecting, actually. I knew it was sort of FPS thing, and I assumed there would be, you know, like obviously environmental puzzles and whatnot, but the way it's controlling and handling, it's like having the toggles for certain things and like the auto centering and scanning of stuff. It's almost more akin to something like System Shock. I mean, not really, but it's closer to that than Doom, at least so far. More like a dungeon crawl meets sci-fi. I don't know, just like with the way that you're toggling in between the different modes and the controls, and like you have an aiming mode and a movement mode and scanning mode, and I don't know. This is so cool, and I've barely done anything. All right, I need to put more time into this one. I'm immediately seeing that. This is my kind of game, honestly. Wow. Whoop. Oh, that's cool. I'm still recording. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going to continue that. That is really quite good. Shouldn't be surprised, but there it is. And that about sums up this GameCube experience here for me, really. The games, the system, the whole package, it's surprisingly good. And by that I knew there was solid reason the Cube had a renewed reputation after its discontinuation, but I'd never given it much thought myself, and it's even better than I assumed. And after trying more of its games here, I'm left with regret for not having done so sooner. This is one charming little console. I know that if my teenage self 20-some years ago had been just a bit less of an immature doofus, he could have had lots of fun with it back then. Yeah, sure, GameCube didn't have GTA or whatever, but it had no shortage of M-rated stuff if I was really looking for that. Plus, there was excellent first-party and exclusive titles, and the thing seems darn capable enough, hardware-wise, to provide excellent for the time visuals, especially on the CRTs we were still using back then. So yeah, GameCube, it's awesome stuff. And I sure wish I'd gotten in while the getting was good, because man, there's a bunch of games I'd grab if it weren't for current pricing, something I don't see immediately dropping, since it's exactly in that nostalgic sweet spot for a whole generation right now. Yeah, that said though, I've had a lot of fun unboxing this one, whether or not the seller told the truth that it was actually unused. And I hope you enjoyed watching the process. If so, let me know your own Cubic experiences in the comments, whether or not you had one when it was new or got into it later on. And maybe check out my previous videos on the Xbox and the Dreamcast. Or stick around for more things always in the works here on LGR. And as always, thanks for watching.